All right, we are delighted to be joined by the head men's basketball coach of the Spartans of Norfolk State University. Behold, the green and gold Robert Jones coming off another MEAC championship. And congrats, coach. 3 in the past 5 years. Doesn't get old for you there at Norfolk State, does it?
No, it definitely doesn't get old. You're always excited to go to the NCAA Tournament. Hopefully we keep it going.
Well, and we're here at your first of 2 team camps you have in the summertime at NSU at Eccles Hall. Not a lot of schools continue to do team camps, but you guys do it. Why so?
Well, for a couple different reasons. One, to expose some kids to our campus, that might not even know that our campus exists. Expose parents to our campus that might not know really what our campus, really has to offer, and just for evaluation purposes too. We do look at the kids that some kids that are playing actually have offers. Some kids are kind of on that brink. Yes, we still do recruit high school kids. It's not as much as maybe before, but we still do recruit high school kids. So this is a all-around tool for us to see everybody in one setting. And then, of course, for the high schools, it's good competition. Right now our June camp is our smaller one because it's a kind of a warm-up to the live periods and things like that. Our August is our big camp. So, it's good for these schools out here. There's been a lot of competitive games. And the 11 teams that we do have, or 11 teams that we got, was, they've been pretty good basketball.
You just wrapped up your 12th season as the head men's basketball coach here at Norfolk State, taking over after Anthony Evans took the program to the NCAA Tournament, had the big upset of Missouri. I see Kylo Quinn now is a part of the athletic program, still walking around with smiles ear to ear. And you were named initially an interim head coach, and my goodness, you've now set records as a head coach. It's hard to believe it's been 12 going into 13 years. What's kept you here, and could you have believed back then that you'd still be here doing what you're doing?
No, I couldn't believe that I'd still be here. But I think that there's been opportunities to leave. Like I always say, with success, come suitors. So people have come knocking about trying to leave and things like that. Some situations haven't always been the right situation. Some situations that maybe were the right situations I didn't get. So it's been a combination of 2 things. And of course, the people here. Dr. J, the president, Melody Webb, the athletic director, my staff. The administrative staff around here. Everybody is great. So it's hard to just get up and leave for anything. It has to be the right situation. And if that right situation happens, then it's great. If not, this is a right situation right now. So this is great for me.
Well, and of course, it's neat for you to get a chance to watch your son compete up close and personal. Justin is one of the top players in the area, just finished up his junior campaign in Atlantic Shores. How cool is it for you? And as a father, I asked to a lot of dads. I was just talking to Michael Kadire recently, former Major League Baseball star. How helpless is it out there when you can't go out there and do the things but as a coach, a dad? What is it like watching them play?
It's definitely been interesting the last few years because now I'm able to actually watch him in team camp, watch him in live period. Before it was like he would play, 7th grade, 8th grade tournaments, which is like I'm just there just to be there. But now it's kind of like he's a part of my recruiting, So that's pretty cool. And to see him ascend to being mentioned, as one of the area's, top players, and I know he's got a lot of accolades individually himself, has been fun to watch because he isn't a kid that has been just God-given blessed. Everything that he's obtained has been through hard work. So, it's exciting, and he's going through his own recruiting, right now. So that's fun and interesting, and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's a foregone conclusion he plays for Potts, but it's not always the case necessarily these days in intercollegiate athletics. For you, it's certainly interesting when you look at the big picture of college athletics. You touched on it briefly about just now people think about you don't recruit high school kids anymore. You go through the transfer portal, JUCOs, and we just had this NCAA house settlement where athletes can get paid directly. What are your thoughts on where we are, the pros, the cons, and what do you feel if there's some changes that should be made now moving forward?
I'm just not sure that the genie's going to be able to go back in the bottle. I think that it should have been tailored a little differently early. The kids should have got paid, plenty of, for years, I should say, right? But it should have probably been a cap earlier, because the kids were, they were making $0, unless it was some, funny transaction going on, right? But if you would have capped to say if you were able to make $100,000, right, the kids would have took that. They would have been happy about that because there's a lot of grown people that can't, make $100,000 and things like that. So the kids were able to do that. But now when you got kids making millions of dollars and it's like, how do you go back and cap it now? After you've seen, I know Cooper Flagg, he made $28 million. Well, not in 1 year, but he had $28 million worth of deals in 1 year. It's like, how do you go back and cap it now? So it's going to be interesting to see how settlement's going to be. I think it's going to be really interesting for smaller schools like Norfolk State, because I think the bigger schools, honestly, I'm always transparent. A lot of this has been going on for years anyway, just hasn't been legal, so they're just playing now in a legal space. But kids getting paid at a place like Norfolk State hasn't been going on for years. So now I think that kids are expecting to now get paid when they come here. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens and how that goes on, for smaller schools. I think the big schools will be fine. They're going to figure it out. They got the money, they got the resources, they got the boosters. But how are the smaller schools going to figure this thing out?
Well, I think one of the things that makes you beloved by Spartan Nation out there is that the authenticity you present. You're genuine about speaking your mind. You're outspoken about things. How have you had to adapt, you and your program, to all this and adjust with the times and things? Because it is easy for bigger schools to go poach your student athletes and get those guys that are putting up numbers at Norfolk State and reap the benefits of it moving forward.
Well, we've had it, 2 years in a row now at this point. We always joke and we say if Joe Bryan was around in his age, there's no way we would have kept him for a back-to-back Player of the Year. He was
kid out of Lake Taylor, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he was his back-to-back Player of the Year stuff happened at the beginning of this NIL stuff, so the amounts weren't super crazy. So like some of the amounts that he might have been offered wasn't enough for him to leave happy, right? But now when kids are getting, $800,000, $1 million, I mean, we've had kids leave our program. One kid gets $800,000, one kid gets $350,000, another kid gets $150,000. It's like Joe would have got all of that plus more being back-to-back Player of the Year. So it's definitely a different space that we're in right now. We're still trying to navigate it. We do have NIL, contrary to popular belief. It's like it might not be as much as people, as some of the numbers you hear, but we do have NIL money, so it's going to be interesting to see how we go forward with this.
Exciting times at NSU because certainly you've kept this program rolling. You're winning, you're competing, and you're playing teams outside the conference. You're not afraid of anybody, and we'll get to a matchup you've got scheduled here coming up for the next couple of years. Yeah. But Michael Vick arrives as a new football coach. He's a legend. Jermaine Woods comes in after Larry Vickers leads the women's program to an NCAA tournament, and he goes to Auburn. But Jermaine's well known from his roots in the 757. Just what's it like bouncing off things off those coaches and vice versa? I'm sure they've come to you for advice on things as well.
Yeah, I've talked to Mike. A couple of times, not really at length because I know he's still trying to figure it out. And like I always say, I let a coach, do their own thing. And then if they want some advice or anything like that, then, I'm always willing to be a team player to help. So, we've talked about a couple of different things. And like I said, this year he'll see the ups and downs, there's going to be highs and lows, and it's going to be different as a coach than it was maybe as a player, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And, because there's obviously a lot of fanfare and a lot of excitement, and we hope that, a championship happens right away. But usually likelihood is probably not. So we're going to see how it's going to go up and down and things like that. But we hope for it to happen. I think everyone's hoping for him to be successful. And Coach Woods, I've known for years. So, Coach Woods, we'll come in here, sit in the same seat that you're sitting in, and we'll sit down and talk. So, that's my guy. Coach Woods is my guy.
And going back to Coach Vick for a second, just his name, it has to bring more exposure to the university. And there can be some things that are pluses, and it helps you all as a basketball program continue to grow, correct?
Yeah, I think his name helps the university, because it's more Norfolk State in people's, mouths, stuff like that, right? So you go into a room, some people know the basketball program, or a lot of people know the basketball program about what we've done, even going back to what you said about the Missouri win and things like that. So we've been kind of relevant for a long time, but then he just kind of adds a little bit more to that conversation. I think so. Yeah, that's a good thing.
I'll come more for you later on. Appreciate the time. Hey, Norfolk State and Old Dominion now. It's a home and home the next couple of years. I know it's something that's been important to you to have this. Tell me how meaningful it is to have this and have these type of rivalries between two schools in the same city and watch what the fans come out and support this.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, no matter what anyone says on either side, this is going to be the biggest game for Old Dominion, the biggest game for Norfolk State at home. So it's going to sell out at Chartway. It's going to sell out here. It might not be a sellout for the rest of the year at Old Dominion or NSU, when this thing happens, right? So this is why I've been saying that we should have been played this game for years. And then granted, we would play in moments, we would play I think we played in 21 or 22 or something.
COVID year, if I'm remember.
Yeah, played 21. Yeah. And then we'll play, I think we played back in maybe 16 or 15, 17 or something like that. But this is a game that with everybody needing to save money, no matter if you're Old Dominion, Norfolk State, Duke, North Carolina, whoever you are, I mean, we're right down the block, and this is going to be a quality game, so it's going to be a good game. I'm excited about it. A lot of people, they don't understand the whole dynamic sometimes about, because some people still look at the NSU Hampton thing, and which is still a big battle debate. That's always going to be there, but having Old Dominion come in to our arena in 2026, and even though they came during COVID, you almost don't count that because only 200 people was allowed in here, so it's not going to be the same thing as 6,000 in here, right? So it's like, I'm hopefully, like I said, I'm around to see it in 2026, that game happen, because that's a game that definitely I have wanted to be a part of for many, many years, to get them to come to Echoes in front of a packed house with the band and the fans and everything like that. But once again, credit to Mike Jones for agreeing to this. This is the first time a home and home has been agreed to. So I credit him, and I know Coach Jamal Robinson over there and the rest of those guys and stuff like that. So I credit to those guys also for taking the home and home, because no one else has took the home and home series over from over there. So I credit those guys, and we're excited about playing, and it should be fun on both sides.
It should be a fun environment in both venues, and like you said, no social distancing this time, and watch what transpires with these two schools as they move forward into the future. Lastly, Coach, give me a thought on this coming season with your roster and what it looks like. I know you do have some 757 flavor, which has been the norm here lately for you coming into 2025, 2026.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people think, still brainwashed, that we have like all these New Yorkers, because it's so funny, man. It's like,
because of your background, right?
Yeah, because it's like, I think this year we got maybe 3 New Yorkers on the team, and we signed them in the signing period. So I saw a comment, like, New York, we might as well just be Madison Square Garden. It's like, come on, guys.
But you are a Knicks fan. People know.
Yeah. But it's like, but enough already. Sure. It's like we've had plenty outside working team camps. Jelani Darden just played here. We got Mello Baines here. We got Jordan Leaks. We got a whole bunch of people. Joe Bryan, who played a couple of years. I mean, we've had plenty of 757 Virginia people. So we need to kill the New York. That's almost silly at this point. But we're excited about this team. I think we got some pretty good transfers. Pretty good guys coming back. Like I said, I mentioned Leaks already. I mentioned Michael Jenkins, who played at Woodside. Mello Baines, who played at Lake Taylor. So those guys are going to be in their sophomore years. Well, Leaks will actually be his junior year. No, Leaks will be his sophomore year too. Yeah, because he's redshirted. So like those guys will be all the way in their sophomore years, and it's going to be excitement about those guys. But then new guys, we've got a lot of guys I think that were steals in this day and age. So we're trying to hold on to them for 2 more weeks. Hopefully nobody comes and poaches them. But we're excited about this year's team.
Well, thank you so much. Go check out Coach Jones and the Spartans of NSU, and we'll talk again down the road.
All right.